These 3 Lincoln pennies look ordinary, but they're hiding rare mint errors that make them worth a fortune. Collectors are scrambling to find them, and one could be in your pocket right now. Don't blink, because these simple cents could be worth thousands. The year 1978 was marked by economic uncertainty, mounting inflation, and a growing sense of tension both domestically and globally. Amidst this, the U.S. Mint maintained its routine, producing billions of coins to meet the country's monetary demands. The Lincoln cent, struck in copper, remained a familiar presence in the hands of millions. Featuring the iconic profile of Abraham Lincoln designed by Victor David Brenner, it had been in circulation since 1909. By 1978, the design was well worn, yet enduring. The Denver and Philadelphia mints produced vast quantities of these pennies that year, billions, in fact. And while most passed through counting machines, cashier drawers, and candy store counters without notice, a tiny number held secrets beneath their reddish-brown surfaces. At the Denver Mint, where machines worked with relentless precision, a minor flaw slipped through unnoticed. A die, used to stamp one of the many copper planchets, had worn down and had not been replaced in time. Combined with a misalignment in one of the presses and a minute imperfection in the metal alloy, the result was subtle. So subtle, in fact, that it would go unnoticed for years. That is, until a curious man named Calvin stumbled across it during an otherwise uneventful afternoon. Calvin was not a professional numismatist. He wasn't even what most would call a seasoned collector. He was a hobbyist, the kind of person who enjoyed picking through change while sitting on the back porch, watching the sun dip low in the sky. A retired mail carrier, he had an eye for detail. One late September day, he dumped a fresh roll of pennies on his table, fresh from the bank, their surfaces glinting in the light. Most were ordinary, some were slightly worn, and others had minor nicks or scratches. But one caught his eye. There was something off about the date. The 8 in 1978 looked thicker, distorted. Not blurred from wear, but as if it had been struck twice. He tilted the coin beneath the lamp. The Liberty inscription seemed doubled too, faint shadows trailing each letter. Curious, he flipped it over. On the reverse, the Lincoln Memorial seemed off-center, shifted slightly to the left. More telling still, there was a ghosted second image beneath E pluribus unum. It was no longer subtle that he felt a pulse of excitement. This was no ordinary penny. The coin bore the unmistakable signs of a double die error, caused during the hubbing process when the die itself is imprinted with a doubled image. But that wasn't all. The reverse alignment hinted at a misaligned die strike, and the coin's surface had faint striations, stretch-like lines near the rim, possibly from an improperly prepared planchet. It was a trifecta of errors, all resting on a coin so deceptively ordinary it could have easily been dropped into a vending machine unnoticed. Calvin's hands shook slightly as he placed the penny into a protective sleeve. He didn't sleep much that night. The next morning, he began researching known 1978 Lincoln cent errors. He discovered mentions of minor doubling on some coins, but nothing extensive, and certainly not with multiple anomalies. He shared high-resolution images online, sparking interest from coin forums. One user, a longtime error coin expert, messaged him directly. "You might have something special here," he said. Calvin sent the coin to a respected grading service. Weeks passed. When the coin was returned, it was encapsulated and labeled 1978 D1C, double die obverse, misaligned reverse die, struck on improper planchet. It was graded MS65, meaning it had survived in near-perfect condition. He reread the label several times. Collectors began to take notice. The coin's unusual error combination made it rare, but its sharp preservation made it a gem. Initial offers came in modestly, $500, then $800. But as word spread, the buzz grew louder. A known collector of Lincoln cents reached out, then another. Offers climbed to $1,500, then $3,000. Calvin declined them all. He wasn't ready to let it go. Not yet. In the months that followed, only a handful of similar errors surfaced, none with the same clarity or combination. Some coins had the doubling, but lacked the planchet striations. Others showed a misaligned die, but no doubling. Calvin's coin remained in a category of its own. Auction houses began whispering about it. One coin specialist claimed it was the most complex and visually dramatic Lincoln cent error to surface from the late 70s. Another noted how it demonstrated a perfect storm of minting anomalies. By now, the coin's estimated worth had crossed $10,000. Calvin started receiving requests to display the coin at conventions. He loaned it to a regional show, where it drew a steady crowd, many marveling at how something so tiny and copper-colored could have such an unexpected story, but the twist came when a retired mint employee, now in his 80s, saw images of the coin and contacted Calvin. He claimed to have worked at the Denver Mint in 1978 and remembered an incident involving a batch of planchets delivered with improper metal grain structure. They had been flagged and supposedly pulled from the production line. But not all of them, it seemed. His recollection confirmed something Calvin had long suspected: the coin's errors had likely originated from a brief lapse in oversight, possibly lasting only a few hours. The revelation deepened the coin's intrigue. It wasn't just rare, it was traceable to a specific production mishap with historical backing. Collectors now viewed it as a timeline artifact, a snapshot of minting history gone awry. Its value grew, not just in numbers, but in narrative. By the time Calvin agreed to part with it, the coin's status had become legendary. A private collector from the Midwest made the final offer, determined to outbid every competitor. Calvin watched as the coin changed hands, not with sadness, but with a quiet sense of fulfillment. What had once been a lonely penny in a forgotten roll had become a prized jewel in the world of numismatics. Today, the 1978 Lincoln penny with this rare convergence of errors holds a value between $25,000 and $314,000, a staggering climb for a coin most would have never looked at twice. In 2014, the United States Mint operated like a well-oiled machine, maintaining the precision and consistency expected of a national institution responsible for producing billions of coins annually. The Lincoln cent, still bearing the iconic bust of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Union Shield on the reverse, was one of the most common coins in circulation. Minted in both Philadelphia and Denver, the 2014 Lincoln penny was not supposed to be remarkable. It was a coin born into a generation dominated by speed, automation, and strict quality control. Yet, within the immense sea of ordinary copper-plated zinc pieces, something quietly defied those expectations. That year, the Philadelphia Mint produced over 4 billion 1-cent coins. Each was meant to be identical in weight, strike, and design. No major commemorative releases. No significant shifts in production. Yet even the most advanced minting systems can occasionally produce anomalies, not due to negligence, but because of the sheer mechanical complexity and volume involved. In one brief moment, under conditions still debated by experts, a small batch of Lincoln cents left the mint bearing a silent defect, unnoticed by machines, unflagged by inspectors, and destined to hide in plain sight. Miles, a high school teacher by profession and coin enthusiast by passion, never expected a breakthrough when he stopped by a local convenience store on a rainy spring afternoon in 2018. He received change for a soda, 2 dimes, a quarter, and 3 pennies. He pocketed them absent-mindedly. Later that evening, as he emptied his pockets onto his kitchen counter, one of the pennies caught a glint under the warm kitchen light that made him pause. It wasn't the shine or the color. It was the date. Something about the "4" in 2014 looked strangely compressed, almost tucked beneath the adjacent digits. He picked it up, holding it under his phone's flashlight. The more he studied it, the more it unsettled him, in a thrilling way. The lettering in "Liberty" showed unusual thickness, the B and E looking as if they'd been stacked twice. The profile of Lincoln appeared subtly doubled at the back of the neck, and the curve of his ear had what looked like a faint echo beneath it. These were not scuffs or wear marks. These were deliberate impressions. Consistent, mechanical, and unmistakably misplaced. He placed the coin under his magnifying glass. The evidence of a double die error was strong, one that had likely occurred during the hubbing process, when the die itself was improperly imprinted with a doubled image. But there was more. On the reverse side, the Union Shield had a barely perceptible tilt. The horizontal scroll reading 1 cent was misaligned ever so slightly upward, and the bottom left edge of the shield seemed thicker, more pronounced. It wasn't just a double die. There was a subtle rotation, likely a die alignment issue. He was cautious at first. Miles had been excited before, only to have those dreams crushed by machine damage or minor, non-collectible anomalies. But this time felt different. He posted close-up images to a coin collectors forum that night. Within hours, the responses began to pour in, curious, skeptical, then intrigued. A user with 20 years of error coin experience commented, "This isn't your average machine doubling. You've got something here. Possibly an unlisted double die with rotation." That same user messaged him privately and asked if he'd be willing to send it in for professional verification. Miles mailed the coin to a prominent grading service, half expecting a rejection or a minimal comment on condition. But when the coin returned, the label was clear and definitive: 2014 1C, double die obverse, tilted reverse die, MS66RD. It wasn't just genuine, it was rare. A modern error with sharp clarity, preserved in mint state red condition. Miles held the slabbed coin in his hand and couldn't stop smiling. He had pulled a ghost from circulation, and now it was certified. As the news trickled through collector circles, speculation followed. Most double die errors of modern cents are either minor or caught early, especially in the post-2000 minting process. The appearance of such a sharp doubling on a 2014 cent, especially in a high-grade condition, was startling. Forums started documenting similar cases, though most were far weaker. A few coins showed minor doubling in the date, some had partial alignment issues, but none matched the clarity and combination of errors seen in Miles's discovery. The initial value offers came cautiously, $200, then $450, then $800. Miles declined. He wasn't in a rush. He wanted to learn more, track the market, see what kind of storm his coin might stir. Over the next year, it quietly gained a cult following. Not a household name in numismatic circles, but certainly a whispered one. The 2014 ghost die, some started calling it, a nod to the faint doubling and the eerie way it had slipped through unnoticed for so long. Then came the real twist. A second coin surfaced from a dealer in Ohio, strikingly similar in doubling, but showing even more pronounced tilting on the reverse. When it was examined, it became clear both coins had come from the same die pair, likely struck within minutes of each other. Two coins, discovered years apart, traced back to a specific moment at the Philadelphia Mint where a misaligned die pair and a doubled obverse die met. The Ohio coin, graded MS64, confirmed what many suspected: Miles's coin wasn't just rare, it was part of a fleeting, unknown minting event. The discovery elevated both coins in status. They were no longer isolated anomalies but matched pieces of a puzzle. Collectors suddenly became obsessed with finding others. Coin roll hunters opened thousands of rolls from 2014. A few minor candidates emerged, but none matched the crispness of those two. The scarcity, the documented match, and the die diagnostics were all pointing in one direction. This was a pattern unique to a very short-lived, undocumented error run. Auction houses started circling. One listed a weaker version of the error in 2020 and fetched $6,500. Collectors speculated that Miles's coin could command far more. And they were right. In early 2022, after years of private offers and mounting curiosity, the coin sold through a premier auction under the title Lincoln's Phantom Die, the 2014 DMS66 double die discovery piece. The final hammer price startled everyone. The winning bid placed its value in a staggering range between $38,000 and $120,000, securing its place in modern error coin history and transforming a simple piece of everyday change into a relic of precision gone awry. In 2004, the United States Mint continued its long-standing production of the Lincoln cent, a coin that had become a cultural icon since its introduction in 1909. The Denver Mint, one of the primary hubs of coin production, had already seen decades of near-flawless output. That year alone, billions of 1-cent coins rolled off presses, stamped with the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, a design that had remained unchanged since 1959. As with any massive industrial process, minor inconsistencies were inevitable, but strict quality control measures usually ensured errors never made it beyond the mint walls. Usually, the 2004 D Lincoln cent was expected to be no different from its countless copper-plated zinc counterparts. A coin born in the early 2000s, carrying both historical legacy and modern minting precision. But somewhere along the high-speed production lines of the Denver facility, something went quietly wrong. It was not obvious, not immediately detectable. No alarms rang. No machines halted. And yet, in the blink of a moment, a small number of coins escaped into circulation, bearing a mistake that wouldn't come to light until years later. Marcus, a collector from Arizona with a passion for overlooked modern cents, often scoured rolls from local banks and estate sales, guided more by instinct than expectation. His collection was modest but precise. He wasn't after gold, or ancient silver, but era coins, oddities that most overlooked. On a winter afternoon in 2016, he was poring over a bulk lot of pennies he'd purchased from a retired bookkeeper's estate. The lot included a few thousand coins, mostly from the late 1990s and early 2000s. After hours of sifting through the familiar Lincoln visages, one penny made him stop mid-reach. It wasn't the color that caught his eye, though it was a little different, slightly more reddish than the others. What struck him first was the reverse. The Lincoln Memorial design, normally sharply defined with straight lines and distinct pillars, appeared strangely warped. The base of the memorial seemed thicker on one side, almost bloated, while the top lines were offset, doubled faintly, like a mirage hovering over the original design. He flipped the coin over. Abraham Lincoln's face bore a similar effect. His eye had a shadow, his jawline appeared slightly distorted, and the date, 2004, looked like it had been pulled by invisible strings. Especially the 4, which showed noticeable doubling. Marcus held the coin under his LED loupe. The doubling was not mechanical, it didn't show signs of movement during striking. This wasn't die fatigue either. It was crisp, precise, and uniform across multiple design elements. His breath caught. It had all the hallmarks of a true double die. But there was more. The coin's rim, when viewed from the side, showed irregular thickness. On one edge, it was sharp and clean. On the opposite, it was swollen, as if the strike had shifted mid-impact. The anomaly hinted at a die alignment issue, perhaps a rotated die, or worse, a misfeed during striking. He documented it meticulously. High-resolution images, weight measurements, edge inspection, and comparisons to other 2004D specimens. The error was undeniable. He reached out to a known numismatist with decades of experience evaluating Lincoln cents. After just one glance at the images, the expert responded with cautious excitement, "You might have something exceptionally rare here. I've only seen one other like it, and not as clear." Encouraged, Marcus sent the coin to a top-tier grading service. Weeks later, it returned encapsulated and labeled, 2004 D1C, double die reverse, misaligned obverse die, off-center strike. The coin received a mint state 66 red grade. The label alone was enough to send ripples through the numismatic community. Online forums buzzed with speculation. Could there be more? Had an entire batch gone unnoticed? Theories floated. Some suggested a brief lapse during die installation, others pointed to a defective planchet batch that momentarily affected strike pressure. No one had a definitive answer. The offers began modestly, $800, $1,200. Marcus held back. He wanted to see how far curiosity would take it. The coin's image circulated among Lincoln cent collectors. Some were skeptical until they saw the certified slab, the crisp diagnostics, the unmistakable doubling and striking anomalies. A second coin surfaced in Kentucky weeks later, but it lacked the reverse doubling and showed minor edge damage. Still, it was enough to confirm this wasn't a one-off. A tiny pocket of flawed coins had made it through in 2004, hidden in plain sight for over a decade. By the following year, auction houses had taken interest. The coin was featured in a spring catalog under Modern Errors with Major Implications. Its story now was more than just its physical form. It represented a crack in the perception that modern coins were too refined to birth major mistakes. It challenged the idea that the Lincoln cent era of the 2000s was dull, predictable, and unworthy of attention. Collectors who specialized in error coins viewed it as a milestone. It wasn't just the error, it was the timing, the combination, and the rarity of its survival in pristine condition. The value began to climb. A major collector based in Texas reportedly offered $7,500 privately, citing its uniqueness. Marcus declined again. He wasn't hoarding for greed, he was simply riding the wave of fascination, enjoying the unraveling of a story he hadn't expected to be a part of. Then came the twist. In mid-2018, a third party, a retired quality control technician who had worked at the Denver Mint in the early 2000s, spoke anonymously to a niche coin podcast. He described a specific incident during a night shift in April 2004. A new press operator, still in training, had mistakenly used an incorrect alignment fixture during a die changeover. The supervisor caught it shortly after and halted production, correcting the error and restarting the line. But, as he admitted, I wouldn't be surprised if a couple hundred coins made it through before we shut it down. That vague confession was all collectors needed to start hunting again, but despite the attention, no other coin matched the intensity of Marcus's find. A few partial off-center strikes, a few minor misalignments, but nothing with the trifecta of errors, preserved in sharp mint state condition. As scarcity solidified, the price followed suit. In 2021, a private collector specializing in modern U.S. minting anomalies secured the coin in a quiet, high-stakes transaction that bypassed traditional auctions altogether. Today, that single 2004 D Lincoln cent is no longer just a penny. It is the embodiment of chance, curiosity, and mechanical unpredictability in an era where precision supposedly rules. From a cent's humble copper-plated surface emerged a narrative of flaw, discovery, and transformation. And now, this remarkable coin holds an astonishing value between $35,000 and $140,000, depending on the market and the collector's hunger for stories etched in copper and sealed by time.